So let's talk more about, some people might call it the small business challenge. It's the deciding whether you actually have the entrepreneurial spirit, those kinds of things. And so let's talk about this. So why start a business? Why would you want to start a business for whatever reason? I know I've asked you to come up with a business you would like to create. And I know some of you are serious about actually doing those businesses. And some of you may have just picked one because I asked you to pick one. So why? Why would you want to start a business? So here's some things from the book, but I think one of the big ones is you just have the opportunity. So for example, I got a really cool design and I'm going to make a t-shirt out of it. Okay, I can just do it. So I'm going to do it. I've already written a novel, so I have the opportunity to do something with it. I've already made my own makeup for myself, my own beauty products for myself. And well, why not put that together and sell it? I know someone who used to write a lot of fan fiction kind of stuff, and I keep encouraging him. You're already doing all this work writing. Why don't you just take the leap and make it, write it professionally? And I think they would do really well if they did. The other one is just sheer profit. It's the pet rock kind of a deal. The guy who invented the pet rock, he found a rock, put googly eyes on it, and started selling them, and started making tons of money. And all he was doing was picking rock up off the ground and decorating it and then selling it for lots of money. Okay, so profit, just the sheer ability to make some money off it. Another big one, people do go into business, is independence. You don't have to follow the rules of some, mega corporation like Walmart or something like that, where you don't really get to decide what happens. You're just following the rules and doing what you're told to do. A lot of people do not do well with that. And, you get to set your own hours, you get to set your own, decide what you're going to do. And so a lot of people like that. A lot of people just like a challenge. They like a puzzle. They like something that's difficult, and they like to figure it out. So, and there's many, many more. Hopefully we'll get to share some of your ideas why you are interested in starting a business. So here are some things that you need to think about as you're thinking about, am I really going to do this business? Entrepreneurship, running a business or being a business owner, you have to be self-directed. So a lot of times in school, for example, you're told you're going to learn this math because you're told you're going to learn this math. Well, self-directed, there's nobody telling you what to learn to be better at your business. You have to tell yourself, I have to get better at online marketing because I don't know a lot about it. I need to get better at that. So I'm going to self-direct myself to learn about that. It might be you're doing, if like the beauty products some of you are wanting to do and make. Well, you got to make that. Okay. So you can't just go, oh, I'm not going to do it today. Okay. You got to be willing to do that. The other one is you have to be self-nurturing. You have to have some positive self-talk. You can't, there are going to be plenty of other people telling you you can't do it. And so you have to be able to take care of yourself and know that you can do it. And be wise about knowing you can do it. There's the difference between putting your head down and ignoring everybody and being considered a genius and being brave and being successful. And that there's like a thin line between that and then you're being an idiot because you're doing something that's just not going to get you anywhere. So, and that's a hard thing to know. Have I crossed that line or not? But self-nurturing, you have to have a really deep belief in yourself and in your business and what you're doing. Action-oriented, you have to be someone who doesn't wait for someone else to do it. You have to be willing to do the thing, which is why when we talk about key resources, that's kind of one of the things I'm talking about. You shouldn't start a business that you don't already have some knowledge and expertise in, but usually if you have knowledge and expertise, you have interest, you have the knowledge, and you have the ability and the attitude. Knowledge, skill, attitude, those are the three ways to categorize how we learn. But you need that to be able to make a correct action. And picking something, like if you're really into beauty products and you're making beauty products, well, then you should want to do that. Even when you don't feel like doing it, you're going to be able to do that more easily than something else. And there's plenty of times where you're going to have to get up earlier than everybody else, and do stuff to make your business work. So you have to have some energy. Somehow you have to have some energy. So if you're not highly energetic and enjoy eating and breathing and sleeping with the idea of your business and working on it all the time, I'm not saying you can't do it, but you might think twice and think carefully about whether this is for you or not. And that probably the most difficult one in my mind, for people to deal with is you have to be highly tolerant of uncertainty, which is kind of weird because it's almost the opposite of self-nurturing in a sense. But as a business owner, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And when you're starting up a business, until you've sold the product, you may not really know how well it's really going to do. Hopefully you're smart and you're doing some testing, and have a test audience where you're like, okay, yeah, I got 50 people that have tested my product and say they would buy it. Okay, maybe I can go forward. But there's still that uncertainty of, well, that was just the people I asked. What happens when it hits the broader market? Maybe it's a bust and then nothing happens. Maybe there's a new technology that comes around the corner, and now what I had worked so hard on is nothing. I mean, you can't know that, and you don't know that. And so you have to be, you can't let that keep you down. And so if you have that ability to keep plowing forward, even though you don't know exactly what's going to happen, then you might survive the small business challenge and be an entrepreneur and get your business off the ground. So, small business failure. Most businesses that start, small businesses, usually fail within 1 to 2 years. So how do they fail? One of them is not testing the idea. So you have this great idea for vending eyelashes that you're gonna sell. Well, if you're not actually testing and seeing what actual eyelashes people are buying, and you put in the wrong thing, it's your business. Nothing's going to happen with your business. I think we watched part of the video with the vendors that were doing food vending. They didn't really understand how vending works, so they didn't even know how to test it because they didn't know how it worked. Underpricing or overpricing. I've said this before. I don't think I can say it enough. You shouldn't compete on price, especially for a small business, because you can't afford to beat the guys that are the big corporations are the ones competing on price. And that's because they usually have what's called a loss leader, where they're selling something for way cheap, but they've got something that's going to make them all the profit back. So most small businesses, you cannot compete on price. So, but the danger is, well, and we've watched a video about creative work where, okay, I'm going to sell that for $100, when you could sell it for $1,000, but then nobody would buy it for 10,000. So that's really part of the testing and figuring out and comparing the rest of the market and seeing what's going on, where that needs to come in. Underestimating time and effort before profit. I talked to a business owner many years ago who owned a game store. He was selling like board games and collectibles and really niche market. And he kept his store open so people could play games. So it was actually a really great place to hang out. And I played all kinds of chess and some different board games I never would have played before. A lot of fun. But he talked about how he had to have at least a year to a year and a half's worth of money saved up in order to stay afloat. He didn't start making any profit for about a year and a half into his business. So, and he said he can't count. He knew that going into it, and it was still tough. So usually it takes a lot more work than you expect, and it takes a lot more time. So for example, the YouTube channel is the same way. You probably have to do a lot more content creation than you think. You have to do a lot more search engine optimization. You have to do a lot more things than maybe you think you do. And it still might take a while before you start making some money. All right. Next one is starting with too little capital. Another way to think of that is maybe you're biting off more than you can actually chew. It's like the key resources thing in our business model. You need some outside resources, and you're just not getting that to make it your business come off the ground. So you might need to rethink, what am I actually taking a bite of here? Starting with too much. So which is the opposite of starting with too little. Starting with too much is a problem because, and I've seen this where a company gets a small business loan and they have $100,000. And so they rush right out and they buy office space. And so now because they're like, we've hit it, we've got our business, I'm going to get an office space. We're going to start, getting clients and customers in. Well, what they don't realize is it might take them 6 months before they get a client that actually can, buy their product or service. Well, in that office space, they're paying rent. So they started with too much money and they just went out and started spending, is what I'm saying. Instead of maybe working out of the home, using that small business loan, but working out of the home or some other place until they got money coming in, and then they had some reserve or something like that. So it really comes down to budget. Imagine that. The last one is, or not last one, next one is no experience. This is pretty much all of us as far as maybe making videos, making videos. This is all of us when it comes to starting our business, because most of us maybe have dabbled in whatever it is we're interested in making a business, but actually running it as a business can be a whole different ballgame. So I would encourage you, if you can, maybe go visit somebody else who's already doing it and, see what they do and get experience that way, or go work for them, get some experience that way. That's one option idea. Another one is borrowing money with no plan to pay it back. So, and it has to be a plan besides, oh, we're going to make money and I'm going to just pay you back with the money we make, because what's going to happen? Office space thing I just mentioned. I got a loan. Well, in a month, maybe 2 months, depending on the bank, I got to start making payments on that loan. It's not just going to sit there and not want their money back. So, you get a credit card, you get any kind of debt, usually there's a monthly payment of some kind. That's the general way most of these work. And if you're not doing it that way, it's probably a really bad deal, okay? But you're having to pay it back. Well, if you're depending on profit to pay it back, but yet it's going to take you 6 months to pay it back, well, where are you going to pay for it in those 6 months before you start making a profit? Out of your pocket, or you're going to have to close your business doors and it doesn't work. Okay, next one is too much business. Now, what I mean by this is not too many customers, it's you're trying to do too many things. So beauty products, people, maybe you've got like a scrub that you're doing, but that's maybe all you should do, okay? Unless there's a derivative of that that's really easy to also do at the same time, but you're not overcomplicating it by making it shampoo and making this and then making that and making this, okay? And then on top of that, maybe you're doing something more, you're also doing cosmetics, and then you're also doing something else, okay? Which is fine. Eventually that might be actually exactly what you want, where you've got the basic beauty and self-care products, but then you've got more of the makeup and higher end, I guess you could say. Don't know a whole lot about that market, but I know some of you are interested in that. but you're trying to do too much. So vending machine business. Yeah, you want a few vending machines, but you should probably only do one type of vending machine and not try to do, if you're doing beauty vending machines, you should stick with beauty vending machines. If you're doing snacks and drink vending machines, you should probably stick to snacks and drink vending machines, just to narrow the scope until you got it figured out. And then, okay, I got this figured out. Now we're going to go and branch out and do something else. But a lot of people try to do too much. Restaurants having too big of a menu is an example. Next one is planning for setbacks. So when we make our business plan, have a plan for what is the cushion. A good word for it is margin. There's a book called Margin that's a really good book. But just like a blank page has space around it so you can write in it, but you don't write in it initially. It's for after the fact, you can make notes. So we have margins for, and I'm not talking about the financial term. I'm just talking about creating a space to deal with setbacks, problems, emergencies, unexpected expenses, which is the next one. Okay. The next one is credit. It's kind of the same thing as borrowing too money without paying it back. The other problem with credit is interest. So you buy a computer for $2,000, but you buy it on credit, and instead of actually spending $2,000, you're going to spend $2,600 or even $3,000. So you're actually spending way more money, and that can add up, especially if you're starting up and you're trying to fill out an office space or something like that. Okay. Next one is not understanding business cycles, which we haven't really had a chance to talk about yet, but there's a cycle to how money comes in, how you deal with it, how money goes out, how you record all those things. There's cycles to when, and it depends on the industry as well. There's cycles of when customers are buying, when they're not. There's cycles on, like in the government, there's a whole budget cycle where you have to spend certain amounts of money at certain times and all kinds of things like that. There's reporting, there's different things. So not understanding how that's going to work for your business can cause all kinds of problems, and which ties in nicely with forgetting about taxes. So for example, I'm doing my YouTube business. All I'm thinking about is, which I don't have any channels monetized right now, but if I was monetizing my videos, I would, I might only be thinking about, oh, how many views, what's my click-through rate? How much money am I making? And not even thinking that the money that I get is income, and that has to be reported as to the federal government and be paid out as a tax. And then if I have any of those other types of businesses that we talked about, there might be some other tax implications. And especially starting out and you're doing something really small, it can be really easy to forget about that. It could even be simply not charging sales tax and you're selling a product, okay? So make sure that you're accounting for those things. The last one is something really common for young people doing this, but it happens with any business owner, is freedom to work, mistaking freedom to work for freedom to not work. What do I mean by that? That means you can, it's kind of like school. Oh, I don't have to do homework. Well, there's no grade. Okay, I'm not going to really do that. I'm not going to pay attention to the lecture. I'm not going to do that kind of a thing. So we mistake freedom to not work, instead of taking the opportunity to actually work and learn, we just don't do it at all. And then we turn around and we find out we hurt ourselves. So in the business context, what does this mean? Well, you get to choose. It's your business. Okay, I'm making my living making YouTube videos. I'm not. But if I was, then how am I going to keep making money? I got to keep making videos. Well, I don't have to. It's my choice. I get to choose whether I make a video or not. But we can mistake our freedom to do what we want because it's our business, and we can choose not to make more videos. And what will eventually happen is, well, if you're not making content, people will quit watching your channel, partly because what happens if people like and subscribe your video? Well, every time you release one, it pops up in their feed as a recommended or whatever. Well, if it's not popping up in their recommended, most people probably aren't going to keep watching your stuff because it doesn't even show up. Okay. So you can actually greatly damage your business by your video business if you're not creating content. For example, beauty products. I'm not going to make that today. Well, what if you had 20 orders coming in and now you're behind and now people cancel the order because it's not getting to me on time? So be really careful of that one. Okay, that was long. Apologize. But I think that's really important to kind of think through some of the mistakes people make as we go into our next thing. So what we are going to do is the rest of the year, we're going to be talking about standing up a business, managing a business, and we're also going to talk about how money works and some financial things that we haven't had a chance to talk about. But right now, when you are managing or creating a business, all businesses usually start with a plan. It's amazing. And the plan is written on paper. There's actually very specific things that are needed in the plan. And it's really important and absolutely necessary to get key partners, to get banks to give you money, to get investors to give you money. You have to give them the plan. And an investor will look at your plan and go, hey, that's a good plan. I will give you money. Or what about this? And then hopefully you can respond and answer that question, or maybe even change your plan. But it might be that's not going to work. I'm not going to. That's too risky for me. I'm not going to give you money. I'm sorry. Okay, but if you ask an investor for money for your business, they're going to ask you, "Let me see your business plan." Okay, so that's what we're going to start working on. Actually, yesterday, but today and going forward. And it's a very involved process. So we're going to do little pieces at a time. Okay. So, but in the business plan, you're actually going to talk about all of these. How do you deal with customers? How do you deal with employees? How do you actually keep records? How do you keep employee records? How do you keep financial records? What records do you keep? How do you get help? Because if you're by yourself, you can get help. And how do you do that? So, business plan. Business plan is a detailed written statement that describes the nature of the business, the target market, the advantages of the business will have over competition, and potential small business owners to be quite specific about the products or services they intend to offer. So it's kind of like a sales pitch, but it's more than just selling someone your company. It's more than just saying, hey, I've got the best lotion that someone's ever made. Okay, we know that's not true. This is going to be, I've got a lotion that I'm making. You're going to like it. My customers are going to like it because it does these things and it has this price. Here are my competitors. Here's what they're charging. Here's why my product is different. And here is my plan to make this be a successful business. Okay, so you're going to analyze the competition. You're going to want to state, how much money do I need to start? And maybe even money, how much money, and especially if you're doing crowdfunding, you can do this where we need this much money to get the business started. I will need another round of financing to keep the business going. So movies will often do this where they'll have an initial round of investors that will actually start the movie being made. There'll be maybe a completion bond. There may be some other things where you can get people to finance different stages of the business. Okay, so that needs to be in the business plan. Details of daily operation. In other words, what are our key activities that we've talked about? How are we actually going to run the business? What are we actually going to do? And it's mandatory. You got to have it if you're going to talk to investors. If you're just going to do a sole proprietorship, not get outside investors, okay, it's less important. However, it's probably going to be really helpful to have it written down so that you can be thinking about it. Okay. So how do you get money? You can get money from family. It's pretty amazing. Now, or friends. So you got a buddy in class, you're both interested in doing vending machines. So, well, maybe team up, maybe go in, form a partnership, and work together on it and do it that way and pool your resources. One of the gotchas I would say with family and businesses and asking money from family and any business partner is make sure that you're being ethical and only taking money that a person can afford to lose. So for example, I was buying real estate in England when I was living in England, and I asked my grandfather for help. But I was very clear. I don't want, your life savings or anything like that. Only give me what I'm only asking for what you can afford. And if you can't afford it, don't give me any money, because I will find another way. Okay. But that really should be how you do it. Okay. Grandma wants to give you $500. Can she really afford to give that to you? And don't just say yes. Okay. It's really tempting and hard to say no to someone trying to give you money, but make sure that it's something they can really afford to do. And if they can, then be gracious and accept the gift, and then use it for your business. And then when you're using it for your business, use it for what you told them you were going to use it for. Okay. Now, the more formalized your business is, the more you're going to actually have to document that and really do that. Okay. But, hey, dad gave me $100 for my business. Okay. So, be careful, be smart, and be ethical. Banks and financial institutions is probably another good one to go to, partly because of ease of access. You can find a bank really easily. Okay. That's why they're good. The bad part about a bank or a financial institution is it's going to be in the form of a loan that you're going to have to pay back with interest usually. So doesn't mean it's not a bad thing. It just means be aware of what the cost of doing getting that kind of money. Angel investors. So angel investors is kind of like, we could also say Shark Tank might fit in this category, but basically you find someone with a high net worth and you show them your business plan and they invest directly into your business. So it's like an angel came down and gave you money, okay, to run your business. And that's pretty much what happened with Alcon. They showed their business plan to Fred Smith and he gave them money and they started making movies. And first couple were profitable and it continued on from there. Next one, crowdfunding. You may actually know more about crowdfunding. The danger with crowdfunding is, depending on your product or service, the amount of people that are actually successful in raising money for their company to actually get off the ground is fairly limited, actually. The people that usually do the best are people that actually have a solid product that's ready to go. And there's, of course, always exceptions. But I would be very careful just going, I'm going to crowdfund. Because usually the people that are doing really well, they don't tell you all the work they're doing to make it happen. So be really careful of that. But you can. Another one is venture capitalists. So these are people like Shark Tank is more of a venture capitalist kind of feel to it, where they are looking to grow their portfolio by investing in businesses. Now, they're taking on big risks, so they're expecting big returns. Okay. That's why they're venturing out and trying something. Okay. And then the last one is the Small Business Administration, which is a federal agency, which we will look at in just a second, that has business plan templates. It has documents that you can use to write your plan. It has loans. It has all kinds of resources, places where you can go and get help, places where you can talk to other business owners and get some help on what to do. They can give you, they got lists of lawyers and all kinds of stuff. Okay. And even each state also has their own version of it. So you can find all kinds of information. So you can go to this website. Actually, let's do that. And so plan your business. So they've got all kinds of things that we just were talking about. And so please click through that, take a look at what they have to say about different things. but we're going to be focusing on writing your business plan. We are going to do a traditional business plan. Our business model canvas that we use is actually is really the lean startup business plan, but we're going to try to write a traditional business plan kind of a format. So, and we'll talk about this some more in a second, but there's an example, so you can download this, their Word documents. So hopefully you'll be able to open those in Google Docs. But these are just a couple of examples you can look at. Then you have the lean startup format, which you should recognize all these words, and you can see a version of that. Okay, so you might start here and then build up to the bigger one, but click through that and you can see all kinds of stuff. All righty. Okay,